Just bounce to this.
Thank you for joining, Monica. I appreciate your time. I'm doing, as I said just a few minutes ago, today Camila is going to join us, right? Say hi, Camila.
Hi.
So, Monica, yeah, again, thank you for joining. And, I was really interested since like the day we met, which was, probably a while ago. I remember hearing a little bit about your story about how you started your business, and it really intrigued me. And I wanted to make sure and just explore a little bit your story, because I've been doing these interviews and everyone has a different story, and some of them, everyone's is different, right? But I really loved yours, and I just wanted to hear more about that. So, just first of all, tell us who is Monica?
That's a funny question. That should be so easy, right? And so I guess I guess the best way I would explain that is I'm a mother, I'm a spouse, I'm a daughter, I'm a friend, and a veteran. Those are things that are important to me. I'm a Fort Worth native and born and raised here, and did not think I was going to be back here, but here I am, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. So
Yeah.
that's the short of it.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you for your service. We truly appreciate that. Tell us about your business.
So E9 Construction, obviously, like I said, we're veteran, minority, woman owned and operated. And those things are only important to say because in the space that we're in, those afford us some opportunities we wouldn't otherwise have. But we are an interior finished out remodeling contractor, essentially. We focus on federal procurement. So we do most of our work on military bases, hence the veteran side of things. And that's not necessarily because I'm a veteran. You'll kind of hear a little bit more about that later. It's more of where I came from, the company that I worked for prior, and that's where I got all my experience from. So yeah, we do federal procurement. We focus on existing commercial buildings or new builds, but only commercial. We don't do residential. And we have since opened a management division in which we're doing some program management and some project management. So that's something that I've always had my sights on. And so I was excited to really roll that out, of course, and then COVID hit. And so that kind of took a little bit of a backseat, but that's fine. It'll come back. And we've made some good contacts, and we've been doing some marketing on that end. So it'll be good. But mainly we do the federal procurement interior finish out.
So do you work on bases all over the country?
Yeah, right now we focus, our main base where we make the most of our money is NASJRB here in Fort Worth.
Okay.
But we've worked, there's a United States Army Reserve Center out in Grand Prairie, Texas. And we've been slowly trying to target other bases. But really what we do is we've been able to work on a lot of the federal buildings. So we've worked for the IRS, we've worked for GSA. So it's not necessarily the bases, but it's a lot of federal procurement, mainly courthouses, things of that nature.
Okay. Have you done any international projects?
No, none. I've toyed around with that idea. I think it would be a good one. I think there's a huge opportunity there, but there are a lot of
There's got to be a lot
of red tape to get through, but I think eventually we will. I think that's something that I'm really, really interested in. And I have had a couple of opportunities, like it's kind of piqued my interest, but we're not there yet, but maybe one day for sure.
Yeah, and definitely don't want to bite off more than you can chew, right?
Yeah, that's kind of always been one of our mottos. It's kind of all happens really, really fast, and we've been afforded the opportunity to work on some huge projects, and I've had to turn down, which just breaks my heart. But if you're not ready, that's something that could definitely sink your company, and not only that, put everybody else who you're working with in a really bad place. So we try to be very, very mindful of what projects we take on, what our capacity is, what we can handle. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. Working on the federal side of things presents some opportunities for a construction firm, mainly because our guys have to be background, or not our guys, I should say, our employees have to have a background check, not a normal background check like like a normal, maybe even like a Fort Worth ISD background check is pretty stringent, but on the base, it goes back 10 years. And so there's all kinds of questions that they ask these guys, and heck, they can't even owe back child support. And so, it really, really puts a limit on who we can bring on our projects, which is good. But it definitely limits us in that capacity. So.
Yeah, I bet. I love obviously hearing veteran owned and women owned, and you kind of already touched on this, but tell us a little bit more about how you got into it and how you started E9.
Yeah, so I got out of active duty in 2005 with the military, have a top secret security clearance, which was something I was, again, mindful of. When I went into the military, I tried to choose a job that coming out of the military, I would be able to have some opportunities to jump on. And so I just thought coming out of active duty, I'd have a ton of different choices for where I wanted to work. And I had some friends who had preceded me in getting out, and they had some ideas and some suggestions based on my clearance. And so I kind of just laid low. I got out of the military and just took a little bit of time off. I had deployed in '03 when things were really, really hectic. And when President Bush declared war, boots on the ground, March 23rd, we were there. So we definitely had a different experience than a lot of veterans have had. I know veterans have gone, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, even 6 different tours. I didn't have to do that. I was only there 1 year.
Okay.
But the year that we were there was so significant and so darn scary that, getting out, I took some time off, let's see that way. So I took a little bit of time off and had applied for some jobs in the meantime, one being Lockheed. And it's about a 6-month application process there. And so I knew it was going to take some time. In the meantime, I had a friend who had a family member who ran her own business, and she needed some help. And so I went to go do some admin work for her on a small contract she was working on, and kind of never left. I was working on that project, and then they invited me to come work at their corporate headquarters office, which I did. They were a woman minority owned firm.
Okay.
And they were doing federal procurement, which is the exact same thing I do. However, they were killing it. I mean, they didn't even have to go and look for work. People were just coming to them, contracting officers, just begging them to do work essentially for them. And I thought, wow. So I was able to grow with them when they first started their organization. And so I learned a lot. It was all sink or swim. No one taught me the ropes. It was all like turn in a pay application and you're not going to get paid unless you do it right. And it was really a lot of stuff to that. And so I was able to learn really from the bottom to the top. And so I started off working in the office there. So I was able to learn the back of house side of the job. And then I still had to go. So the main reason I went to the Army was for college. And so the entire time that I was in the military, I was taking college courses the entire time, stationed in Korea, working all day, school all night, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Mondays, Wednesdays, came to Fort Hood, the exact same thing. The only time I didn't go to school was when I was in Iraq, obviously. So I had a ton of credits, but I hadn't majored in anything. I decided to, I had been trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to do, but there wasn't a ton of money in it. It wasn't a ton of fulfillment in it. And so I kept thinking, what do I want to do? What do I want to major in? So finally, I'm working for this construction firm, and I start learning a little bit more about the project management side of things. And it kind of intrigued me. And so, of course, there I go to the Department of Labor website, and I look at how much can a project manager make? Where can a project manager work? I mean, your choices are limitless. So I was like, that's what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do. But I didn't think I'd be doing it for construction. I thought I'd be doing it more for like a corporate firm or something. Okay. So anyhow, I approached the owners of the company and said, hey, listen, if I go back to school for my project management degree, will you guys give me a shot? Will you hire me as a project manager? And they were just like, remember I said it was a husband and wife owned firm. The husband was like, get out of here. We didn't know any female project managers at the time. So he was like, yeah, whatever. So I did it anyway. So then he started getting short on manpower. We had a guy who wasn't doing what he was supposed to be doing at DFW Airport. So they pulled him off the job, and I had to go kind of do a little bit of crisis management there. And I liked it, right? And then we had a couple other jobs, the same thing, where it's like we have an opportunity in Waco, but we don't have anybody to put there. And I'm like, I'll go do it. So eventually I just started knowing the contracting officers, and they just started requesting me on their jobs. And I ended up liking it, a ton. So got my degree in project management, did some quality control training and some safety training. And so now I felt like I was a double force because I knew the back of house type things, but then I also knew the project management operations side of the business. So the company I was working for, it really started off that there was a certification that they had through the SBA, which made them really, really successful. It was getting ready to expire, and they hadn't diversified a bunch. They were killing it in the industry they were in, but once you don't have that certification, contracting officers can't use you. So they were kind of stuck in the water. What were they going to do next? And I said, hey, listen, guys, what if I start my own firm? Because at this point, I was already working right under the husband and wife. There was nowhere else for me to go. So, of course, I was thinking about job security and what was I going to be doing 5 or 10 years down the road. I didn't think I would feel comfortable being in the same exact spot I was 5 years ago, right? So I said, what if I know I can't ask you guys to join me, or I'm sorry, I know I can't ask to become a partner in the firm or anything like that. They've done all the blood, sweat, tears. I mean, literally, it was a true success story from the bottom to the top. I said, but what if I start my own company? We joint venture together. I could get my 8A certification. You guys have all the suppliers. They had all the credit. They had all the contacts. So I just thought I would just come in and kind of just take over what they couldn't get anymore. And we would just keep rolling. I would sub some stuff out to them, and ultimately we would grow. So that started off as a good concept, essentially. But I think the husband, or he was my boss at the time, we couldn't come to terms on a lot of different things. And it was pretty obvious the way he ran the company. I probably wouldn't run my firm that way, but he was extremely successful. There was nothing wrong with it. I just knew I wouldn't run my firm that way.
Yeah.
So we just kind of started butting heads a little bit on how would we run our firm, how would it work. And ultimately he just decided he didn't want to do government contracting anymore. He was just going to get out of it, which was great because I didn't have to burn any bridges when, deciding to go on my own. And ultimately I just talked to the contracting officers that were there. There was no shady business. I was able to say, hey, listen, I want to still keep doing this. He's getting out of it. Will you guys give me a shot? And fortunately, I was in a position where I was already doing work for them. They already knew me, and they knew the kind of quality of work that I like to provide. And so it was a seamless transition. So that's kind of how I got into construction. I transitioned from that firm over to my own, and I just started really and truly just started getting projects. I went and talked to one of the contracting officers, and he said, I have a project coming up for bid on, this was a Thursday. He said, on Tuesday, come see me on Tuesday and I'll give you a project. I had nothing, Anthony. I didn't have a business. I just told him I'm thinking about doing this.
Yeah.
So I literally left that meeting. I went and opened up a bank account, went and filed for our DBA downtown, and we were legit come Tuesday, but called some guys. And one of the cool things was, since the firm was actually the firm that I was leaving was able to they were going to do something totally different. I was able to cherry pick the employees from that company that I thought would be a valuable resource for my firm. So I was able to kind of cherry pick all the rock stars. And so again, they already knew it was just a name change for them. They came over to me, and it was good. So those guys came, they joined me, and that's how it started.
That's cool. I love hearing that. I remember hearing something too. Did you win a competition or a grant or something like that for starting a business?
No, we were involved. Well, sort of. So when we first started, I was looking up resources for veterans. I literally I didn't have any money saved up. I had just gotten out of active duty, and I had blown through all my savings. Not blown through, but like I said, I took some time off. So I had already used my savings up, and I was trying to figure out how was I going to do this really and truly. I was still working full time for the firm that I was working for, and I was a single mother, so supporting my son. And I found an organization called the Jonas Project. Yes. And they are actually a Gold Star family. And so their son was actually one of the Navy SEALs that was killed in operation in 2003. His name was Jonas. And he ended up, Jonas Kelsall. So they started an organization in his honor to give back to veterans. And they were pretty new. They had only had like 2 other veterans before me, I think. But they were supposed to help me with some of the admin stuff, like help me build a business plan. They were working on doing some sort of financial assistance if we needed it. And so I was really able to get in with them. And what was cool about that was they did was a ton of free marketing.
Yes.
So they marketed the firm a ton. Like we were involved in an Army commercial. I was selected because they reached out to Jonas Project and said, hey, we're looking for a veteran, and this is what we're looking for. And I kind of fit the criteria, not exactly. And I was able to be selected. I mean, they were interviewing veterans all over the country, and they selected our story to air. So that was really, really fun. But they actually helped me a ton by way of, like I said, marketing. They're actually no longer in business anymore. The dad of the organization came upon some health problems, and so they had to shut it down. But they were doing a ton to give back to veterans. So I felt like I was really stoked when I got in on that program, and they helped me a lot. because there was a lot of stuff that I didn't know because I wasn't there for the firm that I had left. I wasn't there for the the nuts and bolts of how to start a business. So they helped me do that. So that was great. And then we did a bunch of, I can't remember what's called a Boots to Business seminar, basically.
Yeah.
Same thing. The SBA put it on and wanted to talk to veterans about starting their own firm. So that was good. We did something called VWise, which is for veterans and veteran spouses who want to start their own business. Of course, we were already in business at the time, so I flew out to Boston and got to just network with a bunch of like-minded individuals in that setting. And so that was fun. So we've done a lot of stuff there's a ton of resources for veterans that I'm fortunate to be able to be involved in.
Well, and that's why I asked you that question too, because there's a lot of times you hear of some maybe younger, even inexperienced, or even experienced people that want to start their own business or get into entrepreneurship, and they think some of these smaller obstacles are hurdles to starting a business, and then they never do it. And there's just so many resources. Some, like you said a minute ago, you went and opened a bank account and did DBA in 2 days, and you were ready to put out a proposal the following Tuesday.
Right.
I've heard times before, well, do I need to set up a business account, or I don't have that? And then just in terms of getting marketing and getting resources to learn how to start a business, there really are so many resources out there in the private sector and everywhere else that people just need to search for them and look for them.
Right.
But there really is so much help out there. And a lot of times I hear stories of people not taking that step or not taking that leap because they don't know what to do. And they rely on that and sit on that excuse, and nothing gets done.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I have people reach out to me all the time, either on my inbox or emails, or, hey, my wife and I want to start a business. How do we do this? How do we do that? And I love helping people. Like I said, I didn't really know what I was doing, to be honest with you. I just kind of said, I can do this, but like you said, you do research. There's so many opportunities out there. And that's what drives me insane. Like, I'm like, just all this stuff can be Googled, all the stuff you're asking me. Come back to me when you've got some questions about some ins and outs. I'll walk you through all of that. But for now here, and I just have like a blanket list of links that I just copy paste and send it to people and say, these are all the steps you need to actually make it, do the formal side of things, and everything else as far as running a business, starting a business, I'll help you through that stuff. So, but there are a ton of resources. There are, believe it or not, a ton of people who just love to give back and mentor.
Yeah, definitely.
Aspiring entrepreneurs. And so those people are invaluable. If you can find them, hold on to them, learn from them as much as you can, and they're
Yeah. I've heard this already come out in some of your answers, but what do you love most about what you do?
Oh man, this is going to sound so cheesy and cliche, but it's really the truth. I really love, I love being able to give back to the community by way of, I like being able to provide jobs. I like being able to take care of families in that manner. I get to take care of my family. And when I say my family, I don't just mean my immediate family. Like, my ultimate goal is to take care of my parents. And so, buy them the house that they've never been able to, like the big house, the big dreams and stuff. And so that's our goal. So for me, I really love being able to, one, knock down some doors that, it's kind of funny. People ask all the time when you meet them, they're, oh, so your husband owns the firm and you work for him? I'm like, sure. So it's just so uncommon for people to hear of a woman owning a construction company. I don't know why, but so I love being able to prove people wrong in that capacity, break down, some glass ceilings or kick down some doors and make this a common thing, women in construction. And now it's starting to be more prevalent, but that's pretty cool to me. And like I said, I like being able to provide wealth to my employees, provide wealth for my family, and just grow and learn.
Yeah. So we are all living in unprecedented times right now, and I think it's affected everyone so differently, personally and professionally. How has the current situation affected your business?
Well, I think we're a little bit unique in a way of, a little bit of the story. So in 2018, we decided to expand our family, and I thought it was a perfect time for us to consider having another baby. My first son, I have a 13-year-old. So when I had my 13-year-old, but of course I was 24 years old. I was young, healthy. I had no problems with the pregnancy. I worked actually, I didn't have until I was 42 weeks. So I worked all the way up until 40 weeks. So I just thought I was going to be able to do the same with this pregnancy, and that didn't happen. So I took a lot of time off that year because of the pregnancy. And then we get through that phase, and then the baby turns 2 months in January of 2019, and then he gets really, really sick. So we were in the hospital with the baby. He's on life support, and we basically spent the better half of the year just getting him back healthy. So you can imagine the havoc that wreaked on the business. We had some projects that were going on at the time. Of course, this was fiscal year. Well, for us, it's our second quarter, but because we go off of government, off of fiscal year. So ours started in October 1. So this is the second quarter of our fiscal year, and we have this family emergency and had to pull away from work a lot actually. We had to turn down a ton of projects just because I had no capacity in my brain or in my heart to deal with the business, even though that is like at the core of what I mean, that's what takes care of our family, you know? So I knew that I couldn't just not conduct business. At the same time, I had to make sure, you know, our little boy survived this catastrophe essentially. So that was already hard. So that was a hard year for us, and we recovered really well. Third and fourth quarter of that year, we had made some changes to. That's where the management side of the firm came into existence. We decided that was probably a more profitable, and it made a lot more sense for us to go that route. And that's when we launched that division, that side of the firm. And then we were just working our butts off to get all this traction on that side of the firm, which we were invited to bid on all these projects for the program management side of things. We were doing some consulting for some firms, and it was really fun, and it was great to see things start to come back up, and then COVID hits. Literally, when the week they shut down everything for COVID, we were supposed to seal the deal on two consulting projects that we had been working to land probably for the better part of the end of 19, and then of course all of 20 up until March. So we had the meeting set for Thursday. We were going to seal the deal. We were talking numbers. It was a done thing. And then it gets called off. And obviously the nature of what we were trying to do involved a ton of in-person meetings and introducing people to the community. And so it definitely hurt us in a way that was, people were saying, okay, yeah, you own a construction firm. Construction's not affected right now, but we had already pivoted our marketing strategy just so that way we could overcome a family emergency that we were going through, only to now have to say, okay, never mind, we got to jump back into construction hard and heavy because that's what's going on right now. So it took a lot of pivoting for us. And so it's affected us in a ton of ways. I mean, we've had contracts that are being pulled. We've had contracts being postponed. Not to mention, because the baby was sick prior and he had a respiratory infection, he can't be around anybody. So that goes to, how are we going to, who's going to babysit the baby? We can't take the baby out. We've got to really protect our home. And so it's definitely been challenging. I think we've adjusted well. Of course, everybody's jumping in on these Zoom calls and things of that nature. But heck, you can't do construction on Zoom calls. So it's, you know, it's just like everybody else. You got to be safe. You got to show up. You got to do what you're supposed to do. Wear a mask. Make sure your employees are taken care of. Come home, and you kind of do the thing everybody's doing, where they're just like, okay, you kind of strip down, go run in the shower, and you just want to keep your house in a bubble, sort of. Yeah. So it's definitely been interesting, but I can't say that we've had any other challenges that anybody else hasn't had. Besides, we were already kind of coming off a catastrophe, only to jump right back into another one. It's been a little scary.
Yeah. So this COVID and this pandemic is, obviously, we just talked about how it's affected everyone, and it's affected everyone differently, and everyone's had to come up with different ideas to pivot a little bit or tackle something a little bit differently. Can you talk about, is there one thing that this pandemic has caused you to do differently, and that you've been like, wow, I'm definitely going to stick with that moving forward, whether as soon as we kick this and we go back? I mean, what is the one thing that you changed and you're going to continue that moving forward?
Yeah, I think really the strategy piece of our organization and the marketing piece. I know you had asked a little bit about marketing. So like I said, we started quick, fast, in a hurry, and it's always been me running things. I've tried to bring some other people in to help me run it, and it just never worked the way I thought it was going to work. And so one of the things that's cool is that John was able to join the firm in August of last year. So that's been invaluable to the firm on a whole nother level, just because it's given us the opportunity to sit down and really focus on the strategy piece of the firm, which is something we were never able to do only because it started so fast.
Yeah.
So, you always say, for instance, like a good example is that when I'm going to be a parent, I'm not going to do this, and this is how I would be a parent. And then you have a kid and it's totally different than what you thought. Same thing with running a business. I just thought we would be one way, and then we've had to turn and be another way, just because it's just what, you got to chase the work, you got to chase the money, you got to chase the opportunities. And so this has given us an opportunity to sit down, focus on strategy, regroup. We've strengthened all our marketing. So we're, I think on Monday, our new website's going to be ready to roll out. So that's something that we're excited about. We've focused heavily on our branding. One of the things, we're really involved in the community, and we know a ton of people. One of the things I've never done is really sold our firm to anybody. And mainly because I work on the government side, there's not a ton of people who I can offer my services to. I don't do residential or anything like that. With COVID, what we have done is actually opened our services up. So we've done some roofing work. We've been able to pull a team of subcontractors in, and they'll say, hey, if you get an opportunity, call me. If I get an opportunity, I'll call you. And we've just kind of been running this circle where we don't turn anything down. If we've done a roofing contract, we've done a small floor protection contract, just anything to fill the time, the space that we have, because we never know when the bottom's going to fall out, it feels like.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that has really changed for us. Honestly, no, I don't see us continuing to do those things unless it just makes perfect sense for us. If we have guys who need work and for some reason we don't have a contract lined up, we'll send them to someone's house just to keep them working. We've always done that. But no, I'm actually really excited to jump back into full-on construction mode, and really, really excited to start the management stuff that we have lined up that has been postponed. So I'm really excited about those strategy meetings and jumping into that industry.
Okay. Yeah. And that was actually, the next question I wanted to, you talked about in-person meetings and how you love that. I know in one of the businesses I run, that's probably my favorite part, is actually just sitting down with business owners and talking with them and learning about them and their business. So I can probably tell that that's one of the things you probably look forward to the most of getting back to whatever we want to call normal again, is just meeting with your clients, right? And having those conversations.
Yeah. And I'm not always the type of person who, I'm not the type of person who likes to talk business all the time.
Yeah.
People and what other people are doing. And those are the things that inspire me really and truly. And so I just miss running into somebody or going to have, drinks with someone or coffee with someone and learning about what are you doing? And out of that, what can I do to help you? Yeah. And so that's what I really, really enjoy. And that's what I really miss. And out of that, opportunities always seem to come just because you get to know somebody, you build that relationship, and you just never know what people are holding on to or what people are needing. And so, like I said, I'm happy to help anybody who needs help. And that's what I miss the most.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at some of my questions here, and I think we've kind of already talked about a little bit of this. Can you talk a little bit more about, you're excited about your marketing strategy and your management side, but tell us a little bit more about, because your business is a little bit different, where you do focus on military, I guess, projects. Talk a little bit more about your marketing strategy and what's in store, what you can tell us. I mean, obviously there might be some.
No, so we've, ever since I started the firm, I've always been really keen about the need for diversity, or not diversity, I'm sorry, diversification. And so I never want to get stuck to where, like in 2008, when the sequestrian hit, some businesses were hit really hard. They were making a whole living off of, government construction, government work, and then the government shut down. And we didn't have to deal with that for such a long time prior to that. it just caught so many people off guard. And, you know, I was affected by that because I was in the construction industry. And so we didn't know where our next paycheck was going to come from or whether we were going to even have a job moving forward. And so I knew when I started that I needed to focus or always have on the back of my mind diversification. And so that's one thing that I've always kept that door open and I've always tried to do. But again, I was just stretched too thin. As a small business owner, I think, you know, you wear many hats. Yeah. And it's easy to lose sight of what you wanted to do in the beginning. That's where a business plan comes into effect. And you should review those things and go back and focus on what you wanted to do. So again, with John being here, that again is another opportunity for us to be able to diversify. So one of the things we were working on before COVID was diversification into the commercial private sector. So we've been working the public sector of things by way of, you know, courthouses, federal, different things like that. I want to get into K through 12. I want to get into universities. I want to get onto some of these private contracts that people are telling me, like, you don't have to deal with that government stuff anymore. Things that are barriers to entry to people on the government sides, like the paperwork and some of the quality control measures. That's what I grew up on in construction. So to me, it's second nature. So I think going into the commercial side of things would be a really strong thing for me, only because it takes down some of those barriers and it allows us to do some work. And I think I mentioned to you how hard it was for us to find employees that can pass the type of background check that they have to pass just to be allowed onto some of these federal installations. Yeah. I feel like that opportunity would let me grow our workforce. Essentially, I could bring more crews on because that's not as pressing of an issue on a commercial job that's on the private side. And so I think that's the way that the federal side of things. So we'll always keep a foot on the federal side of things, but you know, we've got some of these certification opportunities, the minority side of things. Not necessarily the veteran side is good, but that's mainly for the VA side, but more the you know, the minority, the women owned. And so, and I don't say that like, oh, you should hire me because I'm a minority. I feel confident in our abilities and our firm's abilities. And I know we could get in and actually make some meaningful relationships with people and do some things for some firms that are really looking for some good subcontractors. I think we could come in and be that fit for a lot of people. And then, oh, by the way, we happen to have these certifications that you need because, you know, the city requires it or your contract requirement requires it. And so I think diversification is huge for us. So how we diversify is obviously keeps changing. It may change after COVID, but we'll chase the opportunities, whatever those may be, whether that's the VA side, whether that's a private commercial side, whether one of the things that's been in the forecast for us is we need to transition from being a subcontractor to a general contractor. However, we always want to be a self-performing general contractor. Okay. So we want to make sure that we have a crew of guys that can always do all of the interior work, and then we hire the trades out. And so that's something that going into year 5, we'll focus heavily on. I think the opportunities are there. I think we have the experience, and ultimately it's just a growth strategy.
Yeah, cool. I want to touch on something you said a second ago because I think it's important, and I've heard on occasion too. You talked about revisiting your business plan, and I've heard people who write up a business plan and think that that's their set in stone plan forever. And business plan is such a living document. It's constantly changing, and you should be revisiting it and should be changing. If you're not changing it, I think there's something up with your business. But I like that you said that.
Yeah. One of the things that I caught myself doing too during this time is I was actually looking for a document. So I ended up having to scroll through my emails. The search feature wasn't working for some reason, and I had to scroll through my emails, and I found a bunch of emails when I first started and how responsive I was back then compared to now when we're just busy and we're just getting a hold of people and calling people. I was thinking, okay, we got to get back to that business model. And that's kind of what a business plan reminds me of every now and then. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where you just, like you said, you can change it as many times as you need to, but it's key to go back and look at that and say, okay, this is what our focus was when we started. Where do we need to change that? And so I think it's a good idea. Not everybody does, but I do.
I agree. How can our viewers find you and your business?
So, like I said, we're revamping our website now. It's just easy, www.e9construction.com, all spelled out. So E-N-I-N-E construction. That'll be ready on Monday to be rolled out. And of course, we're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. I think we may have a Twitter account. I don't do it. I don't know. I think our assistant set us up with a Twitter account. I don't know what you would find on there. I'm not a big Twitter person, but we're on all the social media channels. Besides, I think we're not on Snapchat, and I don't really know what TikTok is. So
yeah, well, I would say
the age there.
Yeah, with us for being involved so much with social media, I don't think every business needs to be on every social media platform. Find the ones that where your audience is, and just focus on that. And even if it's just two, find where your audience is and focus on those two. There's a lot of times, like you said, Twitter. Twitter might not be that effective for your business, so don't waste any time there.
Right, that's true. Good advice.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell us, either about yourself or your business?
No, I think we covered it all. I talked too much on this interview, but no, we're good.
No.
I'm excited to be starting my EMBA at TCU this fall. And so I'm terrified and excited all at the same time. But, for me, I've always worked the best under like chaotic situations, my life has to be chaotic. When it gets too stagnant, I start to just not be as, I'm not as strong. So I think this is something for me that will not only help my business on the strategy side of things. I think it'd be a great networking tool, but ultimately I think that having my brain sharp and moving and doing, a lot of different moving pieces in my life for whatever reason, it works for me.
Yeah.
So
cool.
I'm excited about that.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Monica. I loved hearing your story. I'm glad you and John and the boys are good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time, and I wish you luck.
Thank you.
Just bounce it.